So this is another one from the rumor mill. At this point, I might as well just cover everything rumor related. It's not gonna happen, but yeah, we're doing another rumor thing today. Anyways, a new tweet from Midori suggests that Sega and Atlus intend to make Persona a annual series. So what does this mean for our big old giant JRPG series?
The Junpeis believe it, or don't.
Midori's tweet in full is, the current plan at Sega is to make Like a Dragon, Persona, and Sonic annual franchises through new titles, remakes, and remasters, DLC expansions, and other media. I think this is unannounced information. But it does not mean a new numbered Persona title is releasing on each year. Spin-offs are also counted as new titles. The quality of Persona series should not change, because multiple titles are being developed at the same time across multiple years. The current stage of Persona entered development in 2019, and that current stage is P6, P3R, P5T, and P5X. Now again, let's keep in mind something, I've mentioned this before, but there is no doubt that Midori has sources feeding her actual information. Whether or not Sega and others see this as an issue is up to them, but remember to take rumors and leaks with a grain of salt. I know this is a very common phrase passed around, but to put it simply, information like this is something we especially need to take with a grain of salt. This isn't something we can necessarily prove. They may find that this plan is not sustainable, or simply just isn't viable, and they might can it. Treat this with proper skepticism. Not to say that Midori is not trustworthy in her information, but more to say that this kind of stuff can always be rolled back on. But that's the tweet. So let's talk a bit.
What do you mean, empty space?
While I'm not really in the place to talk about Like a Dragon and Sonic, as I don't really know too much about those franchises overall, I have to say that this Persona as an annual franchise thing doesn't really surprise me. We're gonna take a trip down memory lane. We're gonna be going off the Japanese release dates for these games, mostly because the English releases can get kind of messy due to the time it takes for localization, up until recently. Persona 1 and 2 released pretty far apart from each other. P1 was in 1996, and P2 was in 1999, with the follow-up Eternal Punishment in 2000. There's then a 6-year gap to Persona 3. This is where things get kind of interesting. Midori's tweet says that remakes, remasters, DLC, and new titles all count as releases, and other media can be included, which means, at least to me, that Persona 3 FES in 2007 counts. Persona 4 released in 2008, P3 Portable in 2009, and now we have seen a Persona game release once a year for 4 years straight. 2010 breaks this trend, but 2011 does come around with Persona 2 Innocent Sin remastered on the PSP. 2012 rolls around, and it's a big year for the series, seeing the release of the first Persona 4 spin-off, Arena. Persona 2 Eternal Punishment remasters, and of course Persona 4 Golden also released that year. And the next year is followed up with a DLC expansion for P4 Arena, Ultimax. Then Persona Q in 2014, Persona 4 Dancing in 2015, and of course Persona 5 in 2016. That is now 6 consecutive years of Persona titles. 2017 is blank, but when 2018 rolls around, it brings Persona 3 and 5 Dancing, as well as Persona Q2. 2019 is the release of course, the titular Persona 5 Royal, and in 2020, Strikers follows up. Persona 4 Golden also came to PC that year, and 2021 is technically the driest spell we have for the series if you don't count Strikers getting a PC release as well. 2022 rolls around and we get Persona 4 Arena Ultimax re-released, and Persona 5 Royals ports coming to all modern platforms. And of course, 2023 brings about P4G and P3P to modern platforms as well, and Persona 5 Tactica. Finally, our current year P3 Reload just came out, and if you do want to count it, Persona 5 The Phantom X technically just released. The point I am trying to make here is that Persona kind of already has filled this definition of an annual franchise, with a few exceptions here and there. You could say that I'm stretching the bounds of what could be considered an annual release, as Midori did not explicitly say that re-releases count. But regardless of that, this is kind of already happening for Persona. And I understand that games are taking longer and longer to develop now. You'll find many people who do understand that. and I'm not excluded from that, so this could always change, which is a point that I wanted to make for a while as well, is that while Persona has been an annual franchise pretty much since Persona 3, there's a possibility that could change as games take longer and longer to develop, but we'll see what happens. And if this year is indicative of anything, there are likely more projects in the works within P Studios that we just aren't aware of. More spin-offs is very likely, be it for P3 or P5, and more remakes is probably even more likely given the success of Persona 3 Reload. My point in this segment is just to make it clear that it's not like Persona is really a stranger to this annual plan, since it encompasses all things Persona.
Assassin's Creed is a good franchise.
But the tweet also makes it clear that we will not be going the Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed route. Mainline Persona titles, aka the numbered ones, will not be releasing in rapid fashion, or even faster than they are now. Sega and Atlus are hopefully smart enough to realize that this will have negative repercussions on the quality of their games. In the meantime, I know there are some people probably rolling their eyes at the thought of more Persona spin-offs. And granted, I do understand the distaste some people have for them. Even among my own friends, I'm the only person who actually buys and plays all of them. That said, I'm personally not really sick of them, per se. I think there's a genuine place for a lot of these spin-offs, whether they're actually solid additions to the story, or just fun schlop to play. I, of course, will argue that some of these spin-offs definitely could have bided their time. They didn't need to make dancing first. And you could argue that the resources used on these spin-offs could actually be used for the main series, but of course there's a limit to how much a larger team and more resources would be beneficial to the development of these games. I understand the argument, but it's just not realistic to expect that throwing all the money and people at a project would always help, or even make a difference at a certain point. Like, there's a level where things just kind of stop making a difference. Besides that, I just want a future where the mainline games get the time and care they need, and that means that maybe they don't need to come out any faster than they are right now. In exchange, we get some spin-off titles, and as long as they're still quality games, I don't really mind. Most of the spin-offs I've played are not necessarily bad, they're just some that I don't really like that much.
Aw man, I'm such a genius.
Point I'm making is that I don't think this statement really changes much for me. Persona kind of already has this yearly thing going. Though they might miss a year here and there, even if they go forward with this annual plan, I get the feeling that there still will be some years where they do actually kind of miss the mark, because they're not going to be able to push out a game that quickly. And this probably won't change anytime soon either. It's not like Sega and Atlus can start whipping up games at the speed of light, especially given that we're probably right at the cusp of a brand new mainline series game. But who knows? Probably Midori. And let me know what you think in the comments down below about the potential of Persona being a annual franchise, even though it kind of already is. You can leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel for more things Persona, Atlus, and JRPG related. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.